I know I've really felt obligated to give Pat Bowlen, John Elway, John Fox everything I had and not be. I don't think John Elway wants to hear about a player that's thinking about a second job, after he finishes playing. So I think that's what he deserves. That's what he deserves. That's what Mr. Bowlen deserves, and I've tried to give that to him.
Whether it's 20 below or 80 degrees. So I'm just excited at the opportunity and looking forward to it.
Peyton is as great a football player as you could find in any level, any time, in any stage of the history of this game.
That he's going to get his yards. He's going to make his plays. He's one of the best in the history. If you pull your hair out over every pass he completes and over every yard that he makes, then you'd have a long day ahead of you.
In terms of having the #1 defense, that's a great thing to have. Especially playing the quarterback position, being able to go against them. It's only my second year, but to be able to go against our guys on a daily basis, to go against Richard Sherman, to go against Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor and Byron Maxwell, our defensive line and linebackers, it helps me improve.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan Graham here at Centenary College. And of course, as we all know, Super Bowl Sunday is coming up in just a few days. And I think it's time for us to give analysis on who do you think is going to win. I mean, a lot of you guys at home or watching this probably already know who you want to win. But I think here at Centenary College, I think we ought to utilize the students here and see what the overall opinion is here at Centenary. So joining me, my professional panel of experts, on the far side is Quay Mayo, baseball star here at Centenary College. And the guy sitting next to me is my co-host on WNTI Sports Buzz, Mike Panther Scholer on the golf team. So you guys feel like you've already made up your minds on who's going to win?
Without a doubt. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So let me just plead both teams' cases before we get to our analysis, our expert analysis. The Broncos and Seahawks, both 13-3, regular season, #1 in their conference, won both of their playoff games convincingly, showed everybody that they're both capable of the #1 seed, and going all the way to the Meadowlands to try to defend their title or take their title. And we got the Broncos led by Peyton Manning. No one thought that he'd be as good as he was with Indianapolis. And he had that neck surgery, which kept him out of the field for 2011. And the Broncos took a chance on him. They dumped Tim Tebow in favor of Peyton Manning. And he really got the Broncos off to a promising start for his first 2 years. Made it to the playoffs. I believe they were the #1 seed 2012, right?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. It sounds right.
They got knocked off by the Ravens there.
By the Ravens there. And then this year, they really improved their team. They added Wes Welker to their receiving core and a bunch of people on the defensive side as well. So they have I think they have a better team this year than 2012. And now it's time to plead the Seattle Seahawks case. You got a lot of players on that team that aren't necessarily marquee guys. They weren't necessarily, when they first came to Seattle, they weren't seen as the guy. But they made themselves a team, and they made themselves probably the best that they could be. You talk about Russell Wilson, the third-round pick. Matt Flynn was supposed to be the quarterback, but Russell Wilson proved as a third-round pick coming out of Wisconsin that he was capable of being the starter, and he started every game in his career so far. You talk about Richard Sherman, guy coming out of Stanford, a smart guy, and as much as his persona is wrapped up in him being a player, I think that's a better benefit for Seattle anyway. And then you talk about Derek Coleman, a deaf running back, beat all the odds to make Seattle's roster as a fullback. And you talk about Marshawn Lynch, a first-round draft pick with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills said, okay, 3 years with this guy, he has done nothing. Let's just trade him for a couple of draft picks. He ends up becoming a big star in Seattle, and Skittles as well. But anyway, and then you talk about the ringleader, Pete Carroll, a guy who was told by a lot of writers and a lot of critics that he would never be an NFL head coach. And he had a successful run at USC for about 10 years or so, won a few national championships, but he decided to dump Southern California, go all the way up to cold Seattle to prove that he could be an NFL head coach. And ever since he's gotten there, it has been a success for him, for the most part, and a Super Bowl ring would just add on to it. So let me get both of you guys' opinions. Who do you think has the upper hand in this, if there is an upper hand, and who do you think is going to come out on top? I'll start with Quay.
In my opinion, I think it's pretty even. You got to remember the Seahawks also get Percy Harvin back.
True. So
that's going to be a big plus. But, I mean, I still think the Broncos are going to win. I can't see the Broncos losing twice to them in one season because I'm pretty sure the Seahawks have beat the Broncos 10-40 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
In the regular season, I can't see it happening twice. I think the Broncos are going to come out on top this time.
Okay, Mike?
Personally, I actually like the Broncos. I don't believe that they have an edge. I think that good defense cancels out good offense in this case. For whatever reason, I just think there's more experience on the Broncos team. I think that Seattle's going to kind of be, for at least the first half, very starry-eyed of what stage they're on, national television, obviously. And I like the Broncos in this situation. It's really going to hinge on what Seattle is able to do with their front defensive linemen. If they're able to put any kind of pressure on Peyton Manning, that certainly favors them, because Peyton Manning is a guy who likes to throw 5 to 10-yard passes. He's not really a deep threat, if you will. He can air it out, but it's very rare that he will, especially in the cold winds of the Meadowlands Stadium.
Very, very true. You brought up an interesting point about the Broncos having more experience. This is also, even though both teams are the best in their conference, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup, you're talking about a Broncos team, which is pretty much a bunch of older, experienced players. You're talking about Wes Welker, who probably has about a Super Bowl ring or 2 with the Patriots, if I recall. Maybe he didn't. But you're talking about a team that has plenty of NFL experience, and they're really making a team effort to put all their talent together to win a Super Bowl. And you talk about Seattle, an upstart team. No one on the Seattle Seahawks roster has ever played in a Super Bowl. So you're talking about them. This is their first time here, and what I would expect many more trips, because this is a team on the rise. So you're looking at a team that's on the rise, probably has a better upside for the future. And you talk about a Broncos team that is pretty much at its peak, its competitive peak. So does that play a part in your guys' decisions? Do you think either team has an edge? Do you think experience beats the student here?
Well, I think right now that if there's a year that the Denver Broncos are going to do it, it's got to be now. Absolutely. I think that as guys start to get older on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively, your chances of getting back to the Super Bowl and winning certainly diminish. And you're talking about Peyton Manning, who's now about 36, 37 years old, probably about 2 years left of football if he chooses to go that route. So I think that if they're going to do it, it's going to be now. And going forward, their chances will diminish. I think Seattle is a very young team, and I think that there's going to be more opportunities for them to get back to this stage if they are not able to win the game on Sunday.
Quay, do you want to second that notion, or
totally
want to add
agree.
on?
I mean, this is the year for the Broncos. I mean, the Seahawks will have a lot of years upcoming. Their front office is great. They know how to draft players, so even with later draft picks, they're still going to be able to draft people for the future and keep getting better and better each year. I mean, so far with the Broncos, though, they're getting older and older as the years, offensive and defense, with Champ Bailey and Peyton Manning on both sides. So, I mean, this is the year for them, I think, if it's going to happen.
Okay. So here's another thing to talk about here. We're going to be at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, the first cold weather game for the Super Bowl. The forecast, I believe, was going to be around highs in the low 40s, lows in the upper 20s, winds between 6 and 9 miles per hour, but the Meadowlands that may differ. Chance of rain up to 20%. So it looks like we'll have an okay game. I don't think we're looking at a snowstorm or anything for that game, but it's still going to be a cold weather game. And a lot of people were worried that maybe the cold weather will affect either team's play. But you're talking about the Seahawks, who play in Seattle, Washington, pretty cold environment, and you're talking about the Broncos, who play in Colorado, and as if Colorado's not cold enough, they play a mile high above the actual surface. So you're talking about teams that are used to cold weather. I don't think that really is going to hinder anything. I think both teams probably have to settle into the Meadowlands winds and stuff. Probably the wind chill will be a pain in the butt. But do you guys think that the weather will hinder anything? Do you think it will affect the competition?
Well, I really don't think so. I think we as the media tend to look into things too much. Yeah. We tend to bring about certain things that aren't really a factor. I think that if you were talking about it being 0 degrees or negative, I think then that's when the passing game starts to be affected. And we're talking about the new Meadowlands Stadium here as well. We're not talking about the old Giants Stadium. I have season tickets to the Giants. It's not as windy in the new stadium as it was in the old one, so wind isn't as much of a factor as it used to be in the old site.
Okay. So, Quay, you think cold weather is going to do anything?
It's not going to affect them. I mean, they have a whole week to practice. They've been practicing there in the facilities there, so they have a week to get used to it. I mean, and plus, they've been playing football all their lives, so I'm sure they played in worse conditions than this before, so it shouldn't take too much to get used to.
Yeah. So, like, I'm pretty sure. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, as we said too, it's the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. We're not talking about the 49ers who lost to the Seahawks,
or a dome team like the Saints,
exactly.
Or whoever.
Then maybe that becomes a factor for that team. But
yeah, there'd be a lot more speculation, I would think.
Absolutely.
But like what Quay said, I think wherever wherever team a player may play for, whether it's Miami or a team in a dome or like the Detroit Lions who play indoors, they've been playing football most of their lives, so they're probably used to, especially in high school, like maybe that November chill. If they're lucky, they probably played state championships in December, and then you talk about college, where they may play some games on New Year's and whatever. So I don't think they just got to really get back into that mindset that, okay, there's no climate control here. You know, I just got to get used to this weather, and whatever happens on game day happens. I can't make any excuses to, you know, the wind was too cold for me, or it was too cold outside, or it was just whatever side of the sideline they may have been on. I think it's just going to come down to what their performance is, and they, like you said, they had a week to prepare for this.
Yeah, everyone at some point in their life has played football in the cold, I would think.
Absolutely.
Unless you were grown and raised in California or somewhere out west. You know, football in its inception was thought to be a cold weather sport, so it's kind of getting back to your childhood, playing football out in the elements and having Mother Nature be a factor in this game. Although, you know, once your juices start getting flowing and everything, I don't think you're thinking too much about how it's 20 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Once you're warmed up, you're going to be sweating.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not going to be a factor.
Very true. Now, I just want to go over some pregame notes. This is some of the things I've been jotting down over the week, you know, after media day and all the hoopla that's gone with it, with the Super Bowl. Broncos Mike Adams, a native of Paterson, New Jersey, he plans to walk back to his hometown of Paterson after he wins the Super Bowl. And then I think he's already had something already with his old school in Paterson, his old grammar school. And it looks like he's very confident in the Broncos winning, and he really wants to give back to his hometown. No great opportunity than that. Also, Floyd Mayweather, he already bet $10.4 million that the Broncos would win. I don't know what pool he put that in, but he's really breaking the bank here, even though he has plenty of money. And also, EA Sports came out with their prediction through Madden 25. They simulated the game, and it was funny too because like the simulation was played in the snow, so you never know. But the Broncos ended up winning that simulation 31-28. So it looks like there's a lot of things heading towards the Broncos here. I don't think the Seahawks are getting as much respect in the press as they are, because I think everyone's saying, well, this is Peyton Manning's last hurrah. I think he deserves another ring, add on to his pedigree, because he's only a one Super Bowl winning quarterback. And a lot of other quarterbacks have won two. Maybe not great quarterbacks, but a lot of quarterbacks have won two, and that kind of solidifies their stature as an NFL quarterback. And Peyton Manning, as many records as he has, he probably has most of them, if not all of them. But I think that second Super Bowl ring will really help him out. And I don't think, after this Super Bowl, I don't think he has a chance of coming back to Super Bowl. That's my opinion, but I think things are leaning towards the Broncos' victory. What do you guys think about Peyton Manning and his stature, whether or not he wins this game?
I agree. I mean, I love Peyton Manning. I love how he's all laid back and calm. I mean, he deserves it too. I mean, you have Richard Sherman talking to him, trying to get in his head about him throwing ducks, and he responded to that on ESPN today saying, yeah, I throw ducks, but I throw it for about 100 yards, 200 yards a game with a bunch of touchdowns too. So I don't mind throwing ducks. It's fine. So I just love how he doesn't like really let things get into his head. So I think that's going to help him out too.
All right. Mike, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, as I hinted to before, I think that it's really going to come down to what the Seattle defensive line is able to do. Obviously, Seattle has a great secondary, and we know what they're able to do back there with Richard Sherman and crew. But that doesn't mean that Denver's wide receivers can't get open, because if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, they're going to get open eventually. And I just really like, Denver has 5 legitimate number 1 receivers, if you ask me. And it's going to be hard to contain all those guys. And I just really like Denver's chances in this game. I do. It's time for Peyton Manning to cement his quote-unquote legacy. He's kind of been a quarterback in the NFL and playoffs who has kind of floundered around once he's gotten to the postseason, and I think this is a chance for him to really cement his name among one of the greats. Okay, so just one last time so that everyone is clear on who do you think is going to win. Quay, what's your bottom line prediction?
Broncos, maybe by a touchdown or 2.
Okay, you want to give us a score?
Say 28-14.
28. Okay. Mike, what do you think?
I actually like the Broncos in a semi-blowout for Super Bowl standards. I like them 27-10 over the Seahawks. I think that it's not going to be a game where Peyton Manning is able to put 40 points on the scoreboard, but it's going to be a game where Peyton Manning is going to be Peyton Manning and strategically cut open the opposing defense, and I think that's what's going to happen on Sunday.
Okay, so my turn. I think I'm all about the storybook ending. I've read the history of a lot of things, not just football, but a lot of things in history. You know, it always comes down to that storybook ending, and we saw that last year with Ray Lewis, giving that one last ride for the Ravens to give them that victory for a Super Bowl, even though he killed a guy. But we saw it last year, and if Peyton Manning can back up what he's saying, I think he deserves another ring. I think the time is now. I don't think he could wait any longer for a second ring. So he has a team. He has a much better team this go around than the last 2 times with the Colts. So he has to utilize all of that talent, and he has to encourage the guys on the other side of the ball to play well. And I think the Broncos can come out winning this. I'd say I want it to be close just because of the competitive nature of this game. I want to say a good 24-20 victory for the Broncos. I think it'll be close.
So I should basically probably bet on the Seahawks then, since we have all agreed on the Broncos.
Yeah, we all agreed.
It seems that the media is all taking the Broncos. I think I should go out and place a bet on the Seahawks, even though I think the Broncos will go and win this game.
Well, very true. It's always the underdog as well. There's always a storybook story for the underdog.
It's always the one that no one is expecting.
So we just want to wrap this up. I want to thank Quay Mayo for being here. I want to thank Mike Panther Scholer for being here. So on behalf of everyone here at Centenary College, I just want to wish everyone goodbye, and whoever you're cheering for on Super Bowl Sunday, we hope that it turns out the way you want it to be. So this is Daniel Graham signing off here at Centenary College. Go Broncos and go Seahawks, but mostly go Broncos.